Hey Liz, thanks for joining.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. We were just messaging each other before this kicked off, going, you know what? We we are living it right now with the anxiety with the anxiety in our lives. So all of this is going to be very practical tips, not only for you guys, but hopefully for the two of us as well.
Totally. I always think it's funny before I do these talks on anxiety, I always start to feel the heart racing and I'm like, yep, here it is.
Here it
Here.
is. Bring it into the game. That way we know you're legit, Liz. This is how we know.
Totally. Exactly. How could I talk about it otherwise?
So let's kick off. I just want to know how you're feeling. I guess you've already kind of brought this up.
Yes. Well, you know what? I actually do feel like there's something so nice about sharing the experience with someone else. As soon as I wrote that message to you, I felt calm, like, well, as calm as you can be before you do a live. So actually today I'm feeling pretty good. I did a yoga class this morning and yeah, there's little bits of anxiety going, but I think that's good. Maybe it's excitement. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And my other question, which last time you reframed a little, which is, what are you failing at? And you
Yes.
suggested maybe, what feedback am I receiving at the moment?
Totally. At the moment, I'm realizing that I'm way too addicted to my phone, and so I'm really putting boundaries in. I'm deliberately forgetting my phone, leaving it at home, leaving it in my bag because, on topic, I'm so much more present and I'm so much more relaxed when I don't have that little device in my pocket, constantly splitting my attention. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. I think a lot of us can relate to that, myself included.
Yeah. Yeah.
I basically live on this thing. And a last question for you is, what are you finding out about yourself at the moment and in life?
Good one. I don't know if that I've found this out or I've just accepted it that I'm a crier. I've just accepted I'm a crier. I cry if I'm happy. I cry if I'm sad. I cry if I'm moved. And I'm just embracing that now. So yeah, yeah, that's what I found out.
I kind of love a crier, to be honest. I think some people feel quite uncomfortable when there's such a sort of outward display of emotion. A lot of us have sort of, I guess, been conditioned to be like, oh, I don't know what to do and this is too much. But I
Yeah.
just love when people just go all the way.
Yes. I was even reading my birthday cards last week and I'm crying. I'm just thinking, yeah, here we go.
So good, so good. So for anyone who's just joined us, this is the amazing Liz, and she is a counselor and coach with us here at the Indigo Project. And Liz specializes in working with anxiety. So I was thinking the other day, that a lot of us who experience sort of anxiety on the reg, I guess, like find it sometimes difficult to allow ourselves over to I guess enjoyment or feeling pleasure or feeling connected with our life on a day-to-day basis, because so often we are pulled here and there by our anxious thoughts and our anxious feelings. So is
Yeah.
this something that's pretty common with people who experience anxiety, Liz?
Totally. And I think, if you think about it, anxiety, it's a fear response. And so it makes so much sense that we might become like hyper vigilant and, assessing the environment for danger, or, we get stuck in our head, like ruminating about stuff that's happened in the past, or thinking like, if I just think about every possible thing that could go wrong, then somehow it's going to protect me from, future pain if things don't work out. And so I think it's just so common, like those sort of qualities are the opposite, I suppose, of just being like relaxed and go with the flow. And so, there's certainly so much that we can do, but it makes a lot of sense that when we're in that fear state, that it's hard to just like relax and surrender and kind of be in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. And you brought something up there that is something I often think about, because, yes, as someone who experiences anxiety all the time, I think
Yeah.
that I'm preparing myself. I even told my husband yesterday, I was like, he's like, is this anxiety helping you right now? Because he knows what to say. And I'm like, yes, I'm just preparing. So I think that if I
Yeah.
do think about all the things that could go wrong, all the bad outcomes, that I may save myself some hurt later on down the track. But is that how it works?
No, absolutely not. It's not how it works. And so I think that's where we just have to see that it's an illusion, you know, it's just us trying to get control because we feel out of control. And so we think that by, yeah, as I said, you know, predicting all of the worst case scenarios and going over everything in our heads, it somehow gives us this sense of control. But it doesn't, you know, it just takes us away from being present and kind of being in the moment. And but I think we also need to have a lot of compassion for ourselves, because really it's just our brain trying to keep us safe. Like, it's trying to help us out, but you know, it's not doing such a good job at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So if we do have a situation in which we're feeling quite uncertain, and maybe there's not really anything that we can do in terms of like take action towards it, or problem solve, how do we manage these feelings of anxiety that are coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much you can do. Like, you know, one thing I love is looking at like, what do we have control over and what don't we have control over? And so really leaning into where we do have some agency and learning to let go where we don't. And tools, I always bang on about it, but like the breath, like breathing is just the most incredible tool in terms of getting us out of that fight or flight and into, you know, rest and digest and calming down our nervous system. And I do think we also just need to kind of get better as a culture and individually at surrendering, at realizing that we have so much less control. We kind of all live under this illusion, I think, that we have a lot more control than we do. And I think 2020 is actually really like messing with that illusion. So I think there's something about allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and kind of to sit in that that uncertainty and support ourselves, and you know, tell people how you're feeling and get support from them, and not necessarily have to solve everything, but just to be okay sometimes with not being okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as well, what can be hard for some people who do deal with anxiety is that it often comes for the ride, even when experiences and situations are quite positive and quite happy. And, you know, not only then, you know, we're having to deal with the anxiety experience, but on top of that, we're feeling guilt for maybe not being able to be as joy-filled or as excited, as happy as we think that the situation, you know, requires.
Yeah, totally. I think we need to have so much self-compassion for ourselves. Like, I mean, first of all, to say that everyone's brains are like monkey minds, you know, this is why like everyone says that meditations, you know, most people say that meditation's good for most people. Like, this is just like, our brains are pretty crazy. And so this isn't just only with people who have anxiety. So where was I going with that? Thoughts in my brain's gone in a different direction. Oh yeah. So I think we need to have compassion for the fact that that's just what our minds do, and that you know, giving ourselves permission to be human, that sometimes we are just in kind of like funky headspaces, and that that's okay, and that the more we kind of beat ourselves with a stick when we're in those spaces, the worse it gets. And so I'm a big believer in compassion in those moments, like just even putting your hand on your heart and just recognizing like, oh, this is really hard. Like, I'm really wanting to enjoy this experience, and I can see that all the ingredients are here for a great experience, and yet there's something in the way. And even asking ourselves, like, what is in the way right now of me enjoying this experience? Like, is it anxiety? Like, is it something else? Like, what am I actually needing to give myself at this moment? And maybe it is just some self-compassion. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if that answers what you said, but that's what came up.
Yeah, for sure. I think self-compassion seems, you know, like the words that they seem quite easy. It's kind of like, especially if we consider ourselves to be compassionate people who can meet others from a place of compassion. But I think that there is always this added challenge of, well, how do we do it to ourselves, and how do we know when is the right time for it as well, and when we need to kick up the butt?
Yeah, but I think that can be the illusion. Like, I think self-compassion is quite, you know, it's obviously gentle and loving, but it can also kind of, I don't know if fierce is the right word, but, you know, we won't allow ourselves to actually see the truth of what's happening if we don't have compassion there. So compassion is so important for growth. Like, we just, So even though like it can feel like this thing that's all like, oh, darling, you're doing a great job, like that's not necessarily how I see self-compassion. I think it can just also be recognizing that things are hard, and when we have those kind of softer eyes, we're able to sometimes then really look at our lives and go, hang on, what's not working here? And I think when we're being hard on ourselves, we actually can't always see the truth, if that makes sense. There's like that block of judgment. So I think self-compassion, the more compassionate I am with myself, the more I grow, I think. And I see that with people that I work with all the time as well. It's kind of the opposite to what I think we sort of fear, that like if we are compassionate, we're going to just like, you know, turn into a puddle. Like, so, yeah.
I think as well, you know, when we learn about, I guess, techniques and ways to deal with our anxiety, it often comes from a place of, okay, well, I hate feeling anxious and I want to not feel anxious. And so we take a lot of these tools and tricks, and, you know, to be frank, I feel like I've read them all. I've read all the research studies. I've read all the books. You're like, I am like looking for the magic pill, or, you know, the golden wand to just wave anxiety away. And as I have come to recognize, nothing works like that, does it?
Yeah, no. And that's again like where we get into relationship with it. We start to kind of befriend it and be like, right, if you're going to be here for the ride, well, then how can I relate to you in a way that is supportive? And, you know, I think one of the things that also can get in the way of us being present and enjoying experiences is that we can fall into this like if then trap, you know, kind of game. Like, you know, so like if I don't have anxiety, then I can enjoy my life. Or if I lose weight, you know, then I'll enjoy my life. If I'm just a little bit better at this, then I can finally enjoy this moment. And I think I've certainly been there. Like, I think I've told you that story of when I was in Hawaii and like the most idyllic situation, and I was plugged in listening to a podcast on how to be happier. And I just like all of a sudden was like, oh my goodness, I'm missing my life trying to perfect it and trying to get better and trying to get rid of all these things that I think are problems. And so I think when we can start to like befriend these parts of ourselves and get into relationship with them and realize like this is the moment, like, you know, life is happening now. And even if we have anxiety, like this is where we are. So how can we kind of support ourselves in this moment? And as best as we can, like be open to it. I don't think it's something that we can force, like presence, and, you know, it's like kind of the opposite. We just need to kind of create the conditions to kind of be receptive and to be open. And I feel like I could just talk about this topic all day.
It's so interesting.
I've thought about it a lot. I've missed a lot of experiences thinking about this topic.
Well, then here we are. Now we get to juice you for wisdom. So I appreciate it. So you know, coming back to our topic today of, you know, how can we be present in our lives, in our experiences, whilst still, you know, having anxiety be present with us, you know, what are the steps there, and how do we go about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a buzzword, but I think mindfulness is a great step, because it is just about learning to be present, learning to be in the here and now, whatever is happening. You know, oh, look, there's anxiety here at the moment, or whatever it is. And I think, you know, that's a practice that we can learn through meditation, through yoga. Like, these are things that build the muscles so that we can learn to be present in the moment. I think, you know, when we're in anxiety, we're in our heads a lot. So like learning to like be in the body and to actually experience experiences in your body as well as in your head, you know, slowing down. I sometimes use little mantras like, you know, this moment matters, like this moment matters, or, just, you know, just things like that to kind of remind me and anchor me in the now. And I think as well, like another thing for me, which has been so supportive with this, is gratitude. Because I think when we are living in a future space, like that kind of if then trap that I spoke about then, like, you know, like if this happens, then I'll be happy, then I can enjoy this moment. I think what gratitude does is it takes us away from all the things that could go wrong and all the things that are wrong, and into actually what's going right in our life right now. And again, like, it's not our fault. Our brains are wired for negativity. Our brains are trying to protect us. It's built for survival. So, you you know, that's why gratitude's such a powerful practice, and it's not something that comes necessarily naturally to us. But I think the more I practice that, the more able I am, you know, in the moment to lean back and go like, wow, this is really cool. Like this is, you know, a great moment. And that doesn't happen all the time, and it's not about perfection, but the more we kind of train ourselves for looking for what's good, the better we get at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always feel, I try to have a daily gratitude practice myself. And I find that the days that I'm feeling low or I'm feeling anxious are always the hardest. It's always like, I'm trying to look at all the good things in my life through a really foggy window. And I'm like, I know that they're there. I just can't see what they are.
Totally. And again, permission to be human. Like, we're not machines. And that's when those practices, I think, are really amazing, because I have the exact same thing happen. Like, some days I'm like, I can think of so many things, and other days I'm like, oh gosh, this is a hard slog. But I think that those days are important because you push through something, and even if you're not entirely feeling it, you're just continuing that practice, which is helping you start to, to keep looking for those things in your life.
Yeah, I think I remember reading something about just because you feel something doesn't necessarily make it true. And some of us really use our feelings as, a reflection of reality. And I think this happens with anxiety all the time because, particularly if we're, consider ourselves to be quite smart or insightful people, we think, oh, if I'm feeling this way, then it must be due to some, real threat or something that is likely to go wrong. But I think, once we, dig a little deeper or try to hold up that idea to any sort of scrutiny, it tends not to stand up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love just even again the mantra, like, feelings aren't facts. And so just reminding ourselves of that. And I think the more time we go through that cycle, the more awareness we get, and the next time we go through it, we're more likely to be able to catch ourselves and go, hang on, I've been here before, and I know that maybe I'm not seeing things so clearly right now. And I think that's when we can really lean on each other as well, and talk to someone who you love, and check out those assessments that you're having, with someone who's like got the sanity at that time.
Yeah, love that. I love some of those little takeaways. Feelings are not facts. And this moment matters. I think that we can also think that some, like when I'm feeling super anxious, sometimes I'd be like, okay, well, I don't care. Like this moment will pass or whatever. And it's kind of like holding those two things together is a challenge in itself, because we're telling ourselves, okay, so this isn't final and it is going to end, but I can't make it end just because I want to will it away. So in the other hand, it's like this moment matters, and what I'm doing now and how I'm going to respond to it also counts in my experience.
It's true. But you know what? Again, I feel like we've got to give ourselves permission to be human. Like, it's a dance. Like, sometimes, yes, this moment matters. Sometimes I just want to get through, and that's okay. Like, I remember when I'd have like a baby, like crying on me and screaming, like when they were first born, and all these old ladies saying, oh, it just goes so quickly, cherish every moment. I just remember thinking, I don't want to cherish like this moment, I just want to get through right now. So I think, like, yes, like in an ideal world, like every moment I would be open to and like, and totally mindful. But sometimes we do just want to get through, and we're human, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
I think it's a dance to know when to bring out which tool. I think that's the kind of skill with all of this stuff. Like, we get these tools on mantras, and we think that like we just can apply that every time and it's going to work. And I think the skill is to know when to bring out which strategy. And ultimately the biggest thing is just supporting yourself, like, kind of what you alluded to, not trying to get rid of your experience, but instead just meeting yourself where you are. Yeah, that's what I try and remind myself of when I'm going through things.
That's good. I think it's a good reminder for everyone. And I think that brings us to the end of our session. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This is the amazing Liz. She's a counsellor and coach with the Indigo Project. And you can chat to Liz or one of our other incredible practitioners. Just jump on our website and you can see all of the amazing professionals that we have. And we're back in the space as well. So you can come into our beautiful Surrey Hills location, or you can book a session via Zoom if you feel a little bit more comfortable with that at the moment. Thank you so much, Liz, for your time today. It was really nice. And thank you for all of the beautiful wisdom that you shared.
Thank you so much. And I'll see you in person soon, which is exciting.
Yeah, hope so. Thank you.
Cool.
And
see you later.
thank you, everybody. See ya.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.